Hi, it's Tommy. Before we get started, I just want to let you know this episode is brought to you by Pod Hero, the easiest way to support your favorite podcast. Did you know that only 1% of the biggest podcasts make money? It's true. The other 99%, wink wink, like this one, rely on support from listeners like you. With Pod Hero, you can support all of your favorite podcasts with one monthly membership fee of only $4.99. Just click on the link in the show notes. Tell Pod Hero your favorite podcast. Please don't forget this one, Blending the Family. And your contribution gets shared between shows at the end of the month. I want to say I am enjoying being part of Pod Hero's network. Pod Hero works with almost all podcasts. There's a 0% platform fee. They don't take a cut. There are no contracts. And guess what? You can try it for free for 30 days. Pod Hero. Tell them Blending the Family sent you. Welcome to another episode of the podcast known as Blending the Family. I am your host, Tommy Maloney, and welcome to episode 161 with my dear friend, my good friend, our family friend, Chris Williams. Chris has been on the podcast before. I don't know which episode, but he was on this episode or on this podcast, and I'll put it in the show notes. How's that? All right. Whew. We are recording this after Father's Day, but this interview with Chris we did just before Father's Day. And I learned something towards the end of the show. I'm going to mention it now. Traeger grills. Never heard of Traeger grills. But it seems that this is a pretty cool grill. So if anybody at Traeger Grills wants to send me a grill, please go right ahead. Oh. Still have the squeaky chair. Whew. I'm late setting this podcast episode out. I apologize. However, you're still going to get it. You're still going to enjoy it. What do we talk about in this episode with Chris? We're going to talk about battle buddies. We're going to talk about the support he gets from his wife. We talk about what is going on with race relations in our country, because Chris is a proud African-American guy, former military. I salute you, even though I've never been in the military. Beautiful family, as you'll see in the show notes. Also mention, well, this is how we got on the topic of the Traeger grills. And as we're recording this, again, I'm recording this on a Friday, and I know I'm a bad boy. This episode should have been out already. My wife Ann and I are actually going over to Chris and his wife Jen's house tonight. Yes, and you'll hear in this episode, we talk about food, we talk about ribs. So we're going over there tonight for ribs. Super stoked, super excited about that. Well, how the heck are you doing? Is this your first time listening? Well, you have 160 episodes to catch up to. Yeah, this is episode 161. There you go. I think I mentioned my name is Tommy Maloney, the host. This is it. This is me. I put this podcast together. So please, you know what? I'm going to say it. Please go to Pod Hero. Please make a little bit of a donation. Please. Or leave a rating or review however you get this podcast. There you go. And just get that out of the way. You doing good? You surviving? Are you still in lockdown mode? I'm still excited that not on the road for the dreaded day job. Still loving life. On June 29th, I've got a full day of recording podcast episodes. I'm so excited. So excited! Whew. Odie is outside right now. Otis, if you check us out on Instagram for Blending Family, you will see the pup, Otis. He has been a major puppy this week. I am so bitten up by his little puppy teeth, trying to work with him. I think I've mentioned I bought the book from Brandon McMillan, who has a Lucky Dog TV show Saturday mornings, and this biting thing, this nipping thing is my Achilles heel right now. It's my bane to my existence. It's driving me batshit crazy that I can't teach him to when I tell him no, not to bite. And I've done everything in the book. I've done some other things, I'll admit. I bit his ear. Yes, I bite his ear because somebody told me that when puppies get nippy with their moms, that's what the moms do. So I bite his ear. Doesn't work. I try and have him bite himself. That doesn't work. So anyway, we'll keep working on it. Keep working on it. I do want to mention happy belated Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to my dad. I still have the Father's Day card sitting on our counter, and there's a reason why. One, I didn't send it out. Number two, I'm actually writing him a letter that I guess I shouldn't have mentioned it, but I'll mention it anyway. Dad, I'm sending you a letter. I'm sending you a letter, and it's all positive. Positive. All right. That's all I got, really. Oh, I know. We do mention Dave Chappelle. Have you seen Dave Chappelle's new episode or new special? It's free. It was fantastic. It was raw. It was obviously coming from his heart. But Dave Chappelle is more than a comedian. He's a storyteller. He's a historian. As the kids would say, he really dropped some knowledge. So please check out Dave Chappelle's new special. It's not long. I was surprised. It was like less than 30 minutes, but it was really, really good. All right, that's it. I'm going to get you into this podcast because I got to finish putting it all together before we go to Chris and Jen's, have some ribs, and I'll let you know on the next episode how the ribs are. Okay? I'm sure they're going to be great, but you never know. Just kidding, Chris. Really. All right. Again, episode 161. Chris Williams, a dear, dear friend of ours, is on this episode, and please check out him. Links in the show notes, how to get a hold of Chris. Great speaker. Please. He can bring some great help too if you have, especially youth groups. Really good with youth groups. So if this is your first time listening, I always end the show, well, not always, but for a long time, ended the show because I heard a interview with Terry Crews, and Terry Crews talked about how his success were other people's success. So that's my philosophy as well. So your success is my success is going to be your success. Please enjoy this episode. Please be kind to each other, hug each other. I know we're not supposed to, but I have to. I'm still a hugger. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Please, if you enjoy this episode, share it with others on your social media tribe. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And next time on this podcast, we will be talking how the ribs were. Take care. Bye-bye. And maybe I'll get a less squeaky chair. Who knows? Stay tuned for episode 162 to find out.
We'll see for sure. We're just waiting for this family to get back to us to tell us the test results, but I haven't heard anything yet.
Bummer.
Yeah, not fun.
No. So you ready?
Ready.
You sure?
Hold on, let me take one more quick sip. All right.
Okay, I'm going to do the same thing.
All right, let's do this.
So I've been trying to figure out a way where I wanted to start with all this, and I'm going to start with the last time we saw each other.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I preach I heavily preach on this podcast to men is that it's better to open up,
Right.
better to not keep everything bottled in.
Hmm.
It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't listen to my own uh, advice because
Right.
here's what happened.
Uh-oh.
So it, it was an uh-oh, but it turned out to be a good thing.
Oh, good.
So after hanging out with you and your friends, and
Hmm.
which was it was a blast. It was a blast,
Good.
and that's why I was hoping you would be able to come over because Anne wanted to thank you personally because she
Oh.
after I'm gonna explain what happened, but after what transpired that night after coming home, um, she said you needed that. You need to do more of that. Uh,
Absolutely.
and like I said to you today, I just got the text and we were supposed to be meeting last night, but
Oh, yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. It was good. We still had Zach and Adam there, so we got to, dive into some stuff about, our personal marriages, because him and I both have similar like marriage situations with, getting divorced and then remarrying with that person, and the journey that goes along with that. So we got to talk about a lot of that stuff.
And that would have been nice. I would like
Yeah.
to have been a part of that.
Yeah, but we were talking about doing like maybe sometimes mixing up and doing like a poker game, either my house or Adam's house, where we all just, bring your own 6 pack, and I have all the chips and everything, and we do like a $5-10 buy-in and just have a big poker game where
There you
guys
go.
can, do other manly things.
Well, and that's where again my wife is saying you need more of that because
Right.
I don't do enough of that. And so what happened was after I left you in the pub, I was like starving. So I did something I normally don't do. I stopped
Uh-oh.
and got some fast food and came home, had some liquid courage in me, and not to say that the marriage is rocky. The marriage is I guess to put it any other way other than okay. And
Yeah.
I thought that me being home, that this would be great, that um, we can bond together. Instead of me being the weekend husband, we're together. She's still essential, so she can go into work. I work from home.
Hmm.
Well, things just weren't clicking with us. We
Right.
were, um, for some reason, not communicating. Just the love wasn't there. It was a um, more of a maybe a friendship
Like
or
roommates.
roommates exactly.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I had some liquid courage in me. I had plenty of liquid courage in me, and I just turned to her because I read this article somewhere, and the title of the article was "Your Wife Hates You, and Here's Why." And
Awesome.
so yeah, so I just came out and said, "Why do you hate me?" And really, it was the booze talking. That's my
Right.
story. I'm sticking to it. And she goes, "I don't hate you. Just things aren't normal, I guess."
Right.
So what was holding me back or what I've been holding myself back is it's been a very stressful situation. Number
Hmm.
one, working from home at a day job I hate,
Right.
despise, and people are, I'm sure, sitting there going, "Well, get a new job." Well, it's not that
It's
easy.
not that easy. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people say that. It's like, oh, just get a new job. And you're like, yeah, well, no, yeah, yeah, not as easy as it seems.
Number two, I don't want a day job. I want my own thing.
Right.
Number three, as you are well aware, and the listeners are aware now that we have a new fur baby in our house, Otis. and it's been stressful trying to work, trying to take care of a puppy
Yes.
when, as much as I love Otis, I'm a dog person. I love your dogs. I love anybody else's dogs. I sit here in the office day in, day out, watch my neighbors walking their dogs. I am a dog person. I'm not a cat person. I'm a dog person. But I had no say in it.
Right.
It was, hey, we found this puppy. We want to go look at the puppy. In other words,
Whereas you're
we're
getting a puppy.
exactly, exactly. And so a lot of that I just held inside.
Right.
Uh, that was my responsibility. That I just shut the hell up. I don't say a word. And so I just let it all out. I mean, I let it all out between the anger, between the tears, between just trying to figure out what the hell is going on. But it goes back to where I again needed to sit in a small group. I needed to be amongst men to hear whatever. But it was the opportunity just to bond, just to get out of the house, to essentially be a part of something.
Hmm.
And like I said, I did not listen to my own advice. And so I'm not necessarily regretting it. What I am is it's again as a trainer, it's a learning opportunity for me.
Right.
And I just again can't stress it enough that we men we do that. We hide it all inside, and then when that time comes, we just erupt like a volcano.
Exactly. We hold it all in and let it pile up until there's nowhere for it to go but to explode out.
Yes. So what can we do to start this conversation on a more grander scheme of things to make sure that other men are doing the opposite of what I'm saying, in your opinion, Chris?
Well, in my opinion, I think I mean, you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said we've got to really teach men that it's it's not weak to come out and show your emotion. It doesn't show that you're a weak person. I mean, if you really think about it, it's a lot easier to pretend that nothing is wrong. It's a lot easier to put on that, straight face, I'm a tough guy, than it is to break down into tears as a guy. Um, we've got to break down those walls. I think that's number one is, we've been told that, you have to be the tough guy, you have to do this, you have to do that. And frankly, we need to get rid of those stereotypes of this is what real men are. These real men, throughout history have been the ones that, are taking advantage of women, taking advantage of other people because, they feel that's what they were told. So we've got to knock down these walls that say that we need to act a certain way so that men will feel comfortable being able to let out those emotions. I think
What,
that's the biggest thing.
what was it when you were in the military? And thank you
Hmm.
for your service, my friend.
There you go.
When you were in the military, you had to be that way.
Yes.
How did you, or let me rephrase that, did you have any kind of outlets?
So, and I mean, even to go further, I grew up in a military family.
That's right.
My dad did, 25 years in the Air Force, and it was such a respectable thing to see and to grow up with, a father who was serving his country. But at the same time, that was um, the lesson that was taught is you were that stoic, straight-faced man. You didn't show emotion. I never saw emotion from my dad. So that's again, you kind of learn from whoever that male figure in your life is. So that's what I grew up with. So even when I went through trauma as a youngster, I didn't tell anybody about it. You don't show weakness, you don't cry, nothing like that. So before even going into the military, I had a whole slew of issues that I was holding inside. I mean, past trauma, anxieties, insecurities, and all of that was already there. So then when I joined the military, because I joined the military later in life, um, it was really ingrained even further that if you wanted to be a successful man, a successful soldier, you always had to be the tough guy. You showed weakness, that means you showed your enemy your vulnerabilities. So um, it was just ingrained even further, and that made it harder to come out with a lot of the demons that I was facing. And when they exploded in me, I mean, it wasn't just tears. It was, being, I was cutting myself. I was ruining my marriage. Just it completely, went in the toilet. To put it in a in a better way. Um, and that is how I exploded, as someone who held that in for 30 years. But when it exploded in a way that everybody who was in my path felt it. So that it took that explosion, it took going to a mental hospital, it took getting divorced, and it took another long road of darkness before I came out the other end and was able to really see. And a lot of it I attribute to my newfound relationship with God, is that He was that light shining onto me, saying that it's stronger to stand up and deal with these demons than it is to hide from them.
What was the moment where you said, maybe I need to join the military? When you knew that there's a good chance that you were going to have to face maybe even different demons going into the military. What was in your mind when you said, you know what, I'm going to join the military?
it was it was definitely a lot of things rolled into one. One of the biggest things is I had not finished my bachelor's degree at that time, and I knew if I was going to be that strong father, husband who was going to take care of my family, I had to go get an education. That's what it was. And with my background and history and test scores, the military was offering to pay for the rest of my bachelor's degree. Plus, my brother had just gotten back from his second deployment in Afghanistan. That time, his source was Iraq, and then it was Afghanistan, and just really feeling the need to step into that role that the men in my family have, is to serve in the military. My brother is still serving. My dad did, my grandfather did, my uncles all have. So I felt that was kind of the staple in our family. So I wanted to be seen, as the man of my family, the man of my house. So all of that kind of rolled into one, and plus just possibly having a different outlet, a different, career scope, I thought might help, my mental state as well. So I think those were the big factors that led me to go down that route, even though I knew I had other things that I was dealing with at the time.
What was the first day like when you got to boot camp?
Well, it's very deceiving. It's very deceiving. So when you first land at boot camp, they get you in the big bus, you're cramped in, and then they throw you off the bus and they're yelling at you, they're screaming at you to get in line, get into your unit, this and that. And then you go to what you think is going to be like your barracks at the time, and where you're going to have your cafeteria, and then they completely pull the wool over your head, and you're smashed into another bus with even more people, and then you find out that you're going to be living in bunk beds with 30 other guys. That next morning, that 4 a.m. wake up to get out there for PT that you are absolutely not ready for. I don't think you can really train to be prepared for your first PT session at boot camp. I don't think there's enough you can do to prepare for that.
Where did you go to? Where was your station?
I was in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, so I was on the opposite end of the country from where my family was.
How was the weather?
I went in the end of summer, beginning of fall, and for that area, so the first half of boot camp was ridiculously hot and humid, and then the second half it rained. I'd say about 70% of the time, including when we did all of our field exercises. It always seemed to be pouring rain.
So those first few days and weeks, when did you or did you have that moment of going, what was I thinking?
I would say I was like 4 weeks in. And I remember laying in my bunk and being like, what am I doing? Like, I can't do this. Like, I miss being home. I miss my son. At that time, Keegan, my oldest, he had just turned 2. I had to leave 2 weeks before his second birthday. So I was missing my family, and I was in pain. I was tired. I was mentally just drained, emotionally drained. So yeah, I'd say I was about 4 weeks in, and there was really just that part of me that wanted to tap out. Or I think one time I was on like the top bunk, and I was like, I'll just like intentionally roll off the top, so like I get some kind of medical discharge, and I can leave here without saying I had to quit.
How did you hurt yourself? I fell off the top.
I just rolled over
Yeah.
in my sleep and
Yeah. But you did it. You stuck
I
it out.
did it. Yep. It was, yeah, at that point. I mean, I think, and what I think they do is I think they kind of sense that in, some of the soldiers, and they tell you, and I think they make it this way on purpose, that the quickest way to get out of boot camp is to graduate. There were people who said that they quit and they didn't want to finish, and they ended up being there 2-3 weeks longer than the rest of us because their paperwork hadn't gone through yet.
The old paperwork.
Yes, so they were stuck for 5-6 weeks just cleaning barracks all day, every day.
So here you are, South Carolina, in different part of the country. As a dad, how were you able to stay connected with your son?
You got like at first I think you wait like 2 weeks for your first phone call, for a phone call home. And I think my first phone call home was like a day after his birthday, and that was literally the only thing getting me through those first 2 weeks, was just being able to tell him happy birthday somewhere close to when his birthday was. And then my wife, she was great. She sent letters all the time, pictures all the time, and I had those pictures out with me, and that's what got me through. I remember being on the track doing one of my PT tests, and just struggling during the run. And we called them battle buddies. One of my battle buddies, he knew I was struggling, but he also knew I was a family guy. He said, Williams, finish this for your son, finish this for your son. And that last little bit I had to do, that's all I thought about, was just getting home to my son as quickly as I possibly could. And that's always been one of the things that I've used in my life, is using my family, my kids, as my motivation. They are my why, as I like to say.
Right. You just, in my world, in my mind, you just made such a profound statement talking about battle buddies.
Right.
Because this goes back to why you and I are talking, is that's your battle buddy is your small group. Your battle buddy is that person to not necessarily motivate you, but to help you get through the pain, both physical and mental. And I think that's where we men need more of that. We need more of the battle buddies. We need
Right.
more of, mentorship and fellowship. You know, I remember, you're talking about faith and God, and I remember, I can't remember how years ago it was, where the church finally had a men's retreat for a weekend, and normally they go up to, I think it's Estes Park at the YMCA, but for some reason they didn't do it. They just did it at the church for the weekend. And you know, I had been struggling. I didn't know I didn't know what faith was. I watched my wife every Sunday or even just every day, you know, talk about her faith and living her faith, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't know how to feel that.
Right.
So I go to this men's retreat, and I'm going, I'm probably the only one here that's struggling with faith and trying to find God and talking to Jesus and all this. And they part of it was they would, and as I think about it, I'm like, oh, I get it now. They broke us up into small groups. I'm going,
Right.
ah. And I remember just sitting there going, looking around these other five guys and saying, I don't know if I belong here. And they're like, why? I said, I don't know if I'm a believer. I don't know what's going on. And they're like, you're not the only one. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? No. Yeah. And
And
again,
I think people underestimate the power of that statement is you're not the only one. I think people really underestimate just hearing how you're not the only one suffering or questioning or in pain, how liberating and how powerful that, just those few words can be to somebody who's going through something like that.
I'll tell you, I ended up clinging to two other guys that weekend because they could relate to what I was going through and I could relate to what they were going through. And because of that, and when we were able to go to church physically, I would always make sure I would see those guys and make a point of just saying hi, because that was my way of just saying thank you, for years ago of just understanding that the struggle I was going through and that we've got that common bond. And I look at, what's going on in our world right now, that in my view, and, to speak freely, I don't care. I don't think, I mean, I'm very blessed that my parents, when they were married, that they had a very eclectic group of friends, and they were black, white, gay. I mean, it was a great life lesson that I was learning without having to learn. And it just, again, in our world right now, Chris, the struggle is we really all have a commonality. That's that we're human,
You're human, exactly.
and that's it.
Right.
You and I were talking last week about the little meme about the Labrador retrievers.
Yes. Yes.
They're all labs.
We're all labs. Yeah, that's a hilarious meme that, me and my kids and, my wife have all sat down and kind of talked about. And yeah, what it really boils down to, like you said, is we're all humans. I think that's why they call it human rights. We all have rights. We all should have equal rights. And that's across the board. That's whether, you're black, you're white, you're Asian, you're Hispanic, you're Native American, no matter what it is, human rights, equality, that should go across, you know, all races, all, sexes, whether you are gay, whether you're straight, whether your religion is, like, at the base, all of us are the same. We're all humans. We all deserve these rights, and we all should be able to, respect each other as human beings at the very least.
And it's rough. It's rough being a dad and seeing such negativity, seeing um, unnecessary killings,
Hmm.
seeing the violence out there. And, you want to do your best to protect your kids, but at the same time, you want them to learn, how to respect somebody that is different than you.
Right.
Um, I saw this article about, saying to kids to see color. And
Hmm.
I started thinking about that going, I guess that makes sense. I don't know. I don't
Yeah, and
know.
it's definitely something. So, myself, I am I'm Filipino, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm, very dark skinned. Um, but my wife is, she's beautiful,
Ooh.
strawberry blonde hair, blue eyes.
And she's
Uh,
white.
yes. So I mean, she's Czech and German. So it's funny when our kid had to do a, like, who I am kind of a thing, and they had to write out their races. And we were like, all right, Keegan, write out Czechoslovakian, write out Filipino, and that starts with an F, not a PH. Write down Puerto Rican. He was just like, I know, too much, way too much. So
I'm, I'm writing a dissertation, Dad,
right,
not
I'm
a
just
one
writing the entire
paragraph.
alphabet.
Yeah.
And so that's the funny joke in our family. But I mean, we're a very mixed family, and we have all experienced our side of, the racism piece. Um, so it's definitely a big topic in our family, just because of, who we are, and we want to be honest with our kids. We don't want to pretend like racism isn't there. We want
Right.
to make sure that our kids know, like, this could happen to you. And in fact, my son Keegan, my oldest, he takes more after me when it comes to skin color, and eye color. Whereas our youngest, he has blonde hair, blue eyes. He's, just like my wife. Um, but my youngest kid was called, or my oldest was called the N word when he was in the third grade. He came home just bawling that this kid called him the N word. And, he wanted to talk specifically to me about it. So when we sat down, just, Papa Bear and me wanted to just get angry and, rip into who this kid was, and, all of this stuff. But, I realized that just fuels it. That just fuels that fire. So instead, I sat down with my son and I educated him. And then when I called the school and I asked to speak to the principal, and when I first told her why I wanted to talk, she got very defensive. I think she expected me just to say, race card, race card, race card.
Right.
And I said, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is someone needs to educate this other kid on what that word means and the repercussions that it could have for someone else, and even for him. Like, and that's always been my thing, is we need to educate people as dads. I feel that it's my responsibility to educate my young children on what it means to be a man, no matter what color, and how to treat people no matter what color, no matter what sex, no matter what religion. It's my responsibility as a father not to tell them what they should think. When all of this started happening, me and my son sat down and I said, boys, I don't want to tell you how you should think. What I want to tell you is what's happening. I want to educate you and make sure that you are educated on the situation. And then from there, you can make your own personal decisions and we can talk about them. So I believe in educating my children on all aspects.
How has your wife supported you during these times and supported the boys during these times? Because again, being, a white woman married to a very strong and, I will say you're easy on the eyes there, Chris.
It's the only reason I can keep her around.
Yeah. So how has she helped support you and the boys?
Jen has been absolutely amazing throughout the entire thing. And the one big thing, again, in our household is open dialogue. We aren't trying to shield our kids. And at the same time, we want to be honest with them and honest with each other. Both Jen and I are very respectful of the fact that we had very different upbringings. Jen was born and raised here in Greeley, Colorado, where it's majority white.
Yes.
I was raised in the military where I was all over the place, but for the most part have been a minority and have been have been on the negative end of some racist things that happened. So it's actually really great to have the open dialogue between us, because we have such differences. So it's really great to be able to have someone who you can talk to openly, who's not going to judge you about what you think, and to even persuade you and change your mind on some certain things. So she has been amazing, and especially just being supportive and knowing that my background, what I've been through, as a man, as a brown man, as a brown dad. So she has been just amazing throughout this entire thing, and she will say to people that she doesn't know what it's like to be a person of color, but she supports everyone, person of color, white person, no matter what. She believes in total equality. So that's what's great about in our house and what we try to teach and preach to our children.
Well, that's why I was so upset and really a loss, not necessarily for words, but just at a loss when you and I were together. And that is, I don't know how to help not just you, Chris, but the Black Lives Matter, the minorities, I didn't know. I don't know. I just feel like I have to do something, and your answer was again, which very profound. It's not going to end with somebody like you and I. It's going to be you and I and other dads
Mm-hmm.
sitting down with our kids and saying, listen, here's what's going on. What do you think? What are your thoughts and opinions? Because it really made a lot of sense to me that our kids, our boys in our situation can honestly change the world.
Absolutely. One of the things that is it works for us, it works against us, is both me and my wife have our degrees in psychology. So there can be, some diagnostic things that go back and forth that work against us.
Holy crap, are you analyzing me right now, Chris?
For the past few years now. That's
Hold
why
on,
I'm
hold
getting
on.
a more advanced degree in psychology, so I can continue these conversations.
So Ann and I are coming up, will be September, will be 8 years. So I've known you at least that long, Chris.
Yep.
So crap. You've been analyzing me that long?
I have so many case notes on you. It's amazing.
Don't send me a bill.
But I think what's great about that, though, is that Jen and I have both had the chance to study childhood development. My wife works in, the schools. She works with kids every day and she loves it. I have made my professional career about working with kids. So we both agree that these ideas of, racism, misogyny, just hatred for someone just because of a certain aspect of their life, people aren't born with that. at some point in their lives, they're taught that, whether that's parents, friends, whoever. Kids learn that.
And I'm going to
You know,
stop you right there. Let me
yeah,
stop you right there because when I lived in Tennessee, and majority of the people at the radio station I worked at were from that area, and a good friend of mine who was the morning host, we were both from the Midwest. We were both from the burbs of Chicago, and there were times where we would hear words and they were mispronouncing these common words. Well, it goes back to their environment. It goes back to their
right,
education. It goes back to
absolutely.
their family. Now, let's take it back to what you've already talked about. So, your son is in third grade. He gets called the N word from another kid. Where did that kid hear it?
Exactly. Exactly. This child wasn't born, spitting out the N word. Um, and the unfortunate thing is things like that are out there in, the media, and they're in songs and all of that. But not every kid who hears those songs is going around calling kids the N word. So these people have these influences in their life that teach them that this is okay, that this is the right way to act, this is the right way to think, this is the right way to speak to people. So like what I shared when we were together is, right now what I've seen in the Black Lives Matter movement, since rioting has really stopped, or at least gone down, and we're seeing all of these great protests, is we're seeing changes being made, which is amazing. It is amazing to see that we're really seeing change for equality in this country. But the fact of the matter is, in 7 years, my oldest child is going to be able to vote. But if I don't teach him to carry on these ideals, then all of these protests meant nothing. It's
Exactly.
just going to happen every couple of years. It's just going to keep happening. So until we teach our children to look at a person for who they are and not for how they look or what they think or what they say, this is just going to be a cycle, and that's all it's going to be. For my generation right now, my goal is to start it. I've always said that you can drop the smallest pebble into a pond and it'll create waves. So for me and my generation, I want to be that pebble. I don't want to be the pond. I want to be the pebble that creates waves for that next generation. So I start with my kids, and we educate them on equality and how to be the best version of themselves without bringing anyone else down. And hopefully those waves continue.
I had a brief, very brief conversation with uh, daughter Becca, and I was on my high horse, and I looked at her, and I said, "You are 18. You are voting this year. Bottom
It is
line,
important. It is
it
important
is
this year. It's always important, but this is where our country is at. We're at a turning point where we can either make a lot of change, or we can just continue to do the same, and we'll see the same things over and over again.
Let me ask you this, Chris, because this was brought up when we were all together. And recently, Dave Chappelle has a new special out, and I watched it, and I towards the end I cried because his he's such a, not just in my view. I Yeah, there are times where I get cringe some of the things he says, but he's a really good storyteller.
Right.
And not only that, but he's really good at bringing history into his storytelling. But at the same point, he does use the N word
Right.
like a teenager saying the word like.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And one of the things that one of the guys brought up was a lot of comedians use that word. Do comedians need to take that word out of their vocabulary?
Yeah, that's, especially with, the N word. And, one of the things that, again, it's really great having someone of, the opposite race and opposite upbringings is we have these conversations and it's like, yeah, you know, the black community has the N word. The Asian community has a different, they have, it's a different word, but it's, their
Right.
capacity of the N word. White people have the same thing. Native Americans have it too. Each one of those races, they do not like to be called that word. And they make it very apparent that, we don't like to be called this word. So I think, and I mean, it's a tough, it's that one is definitely a tough subject that I wish I knew the answer of, because I know I definitely, I see the side of, you guys, you all are calling each other the N word. You're throwing it out there, you know, and as it's to you, whether you're black, you're white, Asian, Native American, you're throwing out that word like it's like what you're calling your buddy. So does that open the door for other people to use that word? Everybody has their own opinion on that. I think it's hard though for you to say that that's, you know, a negative, it's a discriminating word, but you're using it as well. So it's that's definitely, a tough subject, but I think I do find it really hard um, when again that word is being thrown out there, and these days it seems like it's more than ever. um, I do think again it is the responsibility of the adults, especially those who have um, a higher platform where they reach out to more people, to really take responsibility for what they're saying, what they're doing, and how that is going to affect other young impressionable minds.
So, the time of this recording, we are close to Father's Day. Chris, what do you want for Father's Day?
Well, like I said, I am married to an amazing woman. Uh,
Is
my
she
wife
right? Is she
knows
right there? Are you gonna? Is she right
she
there
she
with you?
she is right over my shoulder.
And
So
are you gonna say like an Xbox or I don't know any others except Wii, but I don't think Wii is around anymore.
no,
I don't know
no.
any gaming consoles.
No, that's all for the boys. That's all for the
Okay.
boys. So my wife knows my affinity for cooking and grilling, um, and that I am just the biggest carnivore in the world. So my wife actually got me a Traeger already as an early Father's Day gift.
Hold on. What's a
So
Traeger?
so a Traeger is like a really nice smoker. Like
Oh.
I literally set everything from my phone. I adjust the temperature,
Oh my
um,
gosh. No, no, no.
everything from
See?
my phone. Everything.
No.
It's amazing. I have that. I will have you over, and I will make you my smoked ribs, and you will be sold and begging Anne to buy you a Traeger.
Okay, here's a couple of things that you can't use apps
Oh, you
to
can.
barbecue and
Oh, but you
cook and grill. No. Sorry. I'm sorry. I, I I'm throwing down the gauntlet. I don't know. Is it better than a green egg? All I know is a green egg.
I think so. Especially, Traeger. So I'm not trying to put a plug in for Traeger. I'm not
Oh, you
sponsored by
can.
Traeger.
Do it. Come on.
But I mean, when you download their app and everything, they have just such a huge list of just recipes that you use. And of course, I mean, there is that human side with the recipes. You got to, get the portions right and the tastes right and everything. And you do have to pay attention to, the times on things. But I mean, it really makes it so much easier to make some of the best meats you'll ever have. I mean, briskets, ribs. I make chicken wings for my family probably once a week. So yeah, it's definitely it's been my new toy, and I'm definitely loving it. So that and just letting me sleep in and go to the gym. those are my things that I want.
Hold on, hold on. All right, so I have a very important question for you. Very important. Dry rub or wet rub?
Ooh, it depends. It depends on what you're making.
All right, I'm just gonna stick with ribs.
Okay. Ribs. So ribs is dry rub with a quick wet finish. That that is like my thing right there. But if I had to be one or the other, it would be the dry rub.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna produce this podcast. This is over. This is
Just come on over. Come on over and
okay.
I will turn you.
I'm gonna tell you. I was years ago. Years ago, I was in Memphis, and actually, I was in Memphis last year, but this particular time, I was in Memphis. Oh, and I can't remember the name of the restaurant. It's in this alley, and it's super famous, and I can't remember. Anyway, they did a dry rub, and it was horrible,
Oh,
horrible. And the other place we went to, and it was the last time I was in Memphis. I the project manager said, "Hey, let's go to lunch." I said, "Hey, I know of a place where we can go." And he's like, "Really?" I go, "Yeah, it's called Corky's." And to me, Corky's is like the bomb.com, as a kid
right,
would say
right.
back in the
I know
day.
of Corky's. That was a really, really, really far back in the day that they were saying bomb.com
Thank you.
though.
Corky's is the place. I love because I like barbecue sauce. When I have a see dry rub. Okay, so hopefully, hopefully you don't have the virus, and then we can come over.
Absolutely. Or I will just smoke them and I will like send like Grubhub to send it over to you.
No, no, no. I have to have the ambiance.
All
I
right.
have to have the ambiance at the Williams household. I have
Williams
to.
household, yes.
Yes, yes.
With all six of our pets and then,
There,
two children,
three children, including you.
including me. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. If we include
Yes.
me, then yes, my wife has 9 children she has to deal with at any moment in time.
I love dogs. Last question, Chris. Other than hopefully you don't have coronavirus, but other than that, what has changed for you in the past 12 months?
Oh, wow. What has changed for me in the past 12 months? So um, like I said, my dream is to be that pebble. Within the past 12 months, I have been given the opportunity to really become that pebble. Here in this community, I was offered the opportunity to work for, who I'm with now. The company now is Justice Works Youth Care. Primarily out in the East Coast, they wanted to open up their first Colorado office here in Weld County, and they selected me to be their director, their program director. So it's been my dream job, and I'm getting to develop programs and things that will really help families in our community and kids in our community. So that's been huge for me, getting to really hone in on and use my skills to the best of their abilities and really follow my passions. I'm back in school so that I can, use more of an education to continue to help those in need. My kids, even with this COVID, my kids took their like end of year tests and just slaughtered them. So I've got my oldest is going into middle school, which blows my mind, just absolutely blows my mind. And then let's see what else. Yeah, I've started some of these men groups. A lot of them have been through church, but the one that we've started is really more just to kind of get everyone through the anxieties of what's going on these days. But yeah, that has been a lot of what's happened in the past 12 months.
All right, so the men's group, well, I don't know if it's necessarily just a men's group specifically, but the one I really want you to start. Do you know where I'm going with this?
the hopping around town drinking beers group.
Okay, that's number 2. The Bible study / workout.
Yes, that is another one. I'm having more success though getting guys to come out and drink beer than doing a workout.
Hard to believe. That's really, again, really hard to believe. Chris, how can people get in touch with you? Because I know, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, not only is Chris allegedly a great barbecuer, even though he's a dry rub guy.
I'm going to turn you.
A great speaker, a great coach. How can people get in touch with you, Chris?
So they can get in touch with me. The big one is my LinkedIn page. You can find me. I know it's tough. Chris Williams is probably one of the most common names in the world. But you can find me on LinkedIn. It's a really goofy picture of me at a wedding in a pink tuxedo. So probably pretty easy to pick out. You can find me and my wife. Our family is on Facebook. We're at it's Chris Jen, not Christian. But Chris. My wife's name is Jen. On Facebook, I am on Instagram at cdub2504. That's where you can get in touch with me. And like you said, I have done a couple other, thank you for reminding me, speaking events where I've gone and spoke on everything from men's mental health to teen suicide and self-harm. Again, other passions that I love to get the word out about. So absolutely, you can reach out to me on any of those platforms.
Again, I'm bummed that you're not sitting across from me.
Me too.
We could be drinking Tower 56 cocktails. We could just experiment with Tower 56 liqueur, because I think we have almost every single bottle they make, except there's one of their high-end good English, high-end whiskeys.
Ooh.
Which it's a little expensive. Maybe the next paycheck, but
there we go.
Or not bourbon. They're bourbon. They have a higher end bourbon. I have one of their bourbons, but not the cask. I think it was the cask bourbon.
Well, maybe we can go halfsies on that, and then you and I can just reminisce and take down that one.
Well, here's the thing, Chris. The next one of our next adventures out with the men's group. Let's go to Tower 56. We will bust open our piggy banks and do on the rocks a bourbon.
I like the sound of that.
Wait, before you go, please, one more time, give a shout out to our sponsor. This episode was brought to you by Pod Hero, the easiest way to support your favorite podcasts. Did you know that only 1% of the biggest podcasts make money? I'm not even into 2.15. I don't even like milk. That's a little milk joke. But it's true. The other 99% rely on support from listeners like you. With Pod Hero, you can support all of your favorite podcasts, and hopefully I am one of them, at a low monthly fee of only $4.99 a month membership. Just click on the link in the show notes for this episode. Tell Pod Hero your favorite podcasts. Again, blending the family. That's what you just listened to. Please make sure I'm your favorite. Okay? Your contribution gets shared between shows at the end of the month. Pod Hero works with almost all podcasts. There's a 0% platform fee. They don't take a cut. There are no contracts. And you not only get a 30-day free trial, you get my undying, devoted love for the rest of your life. Pod Hero. Thanks for listening.